Hey, welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable as we continue Resource Week, sort of, kinda. Woohoo! We did a little bit of lithium. Today we're going to do thorium. No, just kidding. We're going to do some uranium, although there might be some thorium involved, but you don't even know what thorium is, do you?
It's what you make Thor out of.
That's correct. Good answer.
You can't
I'm
find
Rob.
unobtainium.
Down here in the basement with me is Galen. And what are you making today besides thorium cookies? What? Oh, sounds like Louis Pasteur.
Al Pasteur sounds like a used car dealer in Albuquerque. Come on down to Al Pasteur's. We got a deal for you.
We got a deal for you. I heard a Vega reference last night. I couldn't believe it. My brother used to own a Vega. Chris Perry's in the far corner. He's the guru himself. Michelle's upstairs. He'll be talking charts in a few minutes. He'll actually be talking first today as well, again. It's Uranium, Skyharbour Resources, who we talked a lot about like back August and September. It's been a while. SYH on the Venture Exchange. Jim Pettit is the CEO. Dev Randhawa is in Kelowna running the
Dirty Dev
Fusion 3.0, which is FUU. It's not FU once, right. It's FU twice. FUU venture.
That summarizes.
Encore Energy out of the United States is EU on the Venture Exchange. Bill Sheriff, call him is William. I'm assuming it's Bill. Could be Willie. Might be Willard.
I feel like any uranium company name with core in the title is flying a little too close to the sun.
Core?
Yeah. Like Chernobyl,
Energy.
melting cores.
I feel like we were talking about them back in the autumn as well, but they're based in Vancouver. All right, Vishal, what the hell's going on with uranium? We talked about lithium. What's happening with our neighbors' uranium down the street?
For sure. So before we take a look at these three individual companies, just a quick little sneak peek of the technicals on uranium. We did print new highs in 2022. I believe the last time we were talking about uranium on the Investor Roundtable, we were looking at prices just looking to push above $60 a pound here. And we have broken above that. And essentially now in technical land, or in technical terms, we are in a breakout, but we expect a possible pullback down to $60 before we resume the uptrend. And uranium is having a very strong 2022, and it's had a strong year, really. I believe yearly uranium is up 118%. So a very strong move in uranium. Wow. And the way we're going to approach this is that we expect the uranium momentum to continue. A lot of fundamentals, the supply and demand issue as well. And a lot of basically the demand for uranium is going to increase because of the prospect of further restrictions on Russian nuclear fuel. And people don't really, I think some people know, most people know, but uranium's and basically the enrichment of uranium, not just the selling of the yellow cakes itself. Russia is quite a big player in that market. So is China, for uranium converters and enrichers. And essentially that whole situation is helping to prop up uranium prices, but also the fact that, we're looking at clean energy, right? And that's sort of speeding up. And we've heard about Bill Gates talking about nuclear energy, and we might be heading to that direction sooner than anticipated, because maybe the EU or the European Union is taking a look at nuclear energy to handle, the power situation, or the energy situation, due to what they're going to due to the ongoing situation with Russia. So essentially a bit of a pullback in uranium, and what we're looking at with these three companies are good companies that are heading technically to that support level, which will allow us to basically buy the dip. So let's start off in the United States. So, we always talk about the Athabasca Basin in Canada because it has the highest grade uranium. But this play, or this company, Encore Energy, is focused in America, and they have multiple projects in the United States, and they're a leading American uranium ISR producer, which basically means in situ recovery, which is a different way of, it's one of the two ways of extracting uranium. they do it basically taking out uranium from the ground, whereas, in the Athabasca Basin, it's usually through lakes and water. So the thing about Encore Energy, as I said, multiple projects around the United States, and their most advanced projects are two projects in Texas, actually, which have uranium processing plants, have permits. And the issue is, well, not the issue, what they're doing now is they're refurbishing these processing plants, and they're focusing on one in Texas called the Rosita Uranium Plant. And it is presently 90% complete and expected to be completed by May of 2022, and then a few other steps for the modernization to be completed. And they are expected to be the newest, and I mean Encore Energy is expected to be the newest American producer of uranium by 2023. So these guys are a bit more advanced, just focused in the United States of America, and their market cap is a bit higher at 559 million. Skyharbour. So now from the US, let's cross the border back up north, and the Athabasca Basin, right? Saskatchewan. We've talked about this area, highest grade uranium pretty much in the world. And Skyharbour Resources has a bunch of projects, a lot of focus on the Preston and East Preston project here. And recent news, however, is more focused on Skyharbour and their partner companies. So they've been, doing drills with Encore Energy, which we're going to talk about one day. Medaro Mining, which is another partner company of Skyharbour, Valor Resources, which is another Skyharbour partner, and then recently Basin Uranium Corp, which is doing a completion and mobilization of exploration crews. So a lot of headlines and news about partnering with, doing work with their partners rather than, I guess, focusing on their assets here recently. But it should be noted that Skyharbour does have a lot of big money sort of behind it, right? So Skyharbour is part of the URA ETF, and also Marin Katusa, a very famous, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know who he is, a very famous resource investor, here in Vancouver. He's behind and holding shares of Skyharbour. And then finally, Fission 3.0, which is a uranium project generator and property bank. Basically, these guys for many years have been betting on uranium prices to increase and hoping that a lot of the big producers like Cameco haven't been spending money on exploring and expanding their resource. So Fission and their team of technical experts look at highly prospective projects, basically de-risk them, do all the drilling, make it all nice and shiny, and hope that one of these producers will basically go in to acquire that project because they need some new uranium resources. And they have 16 projects, so quite a lot of properties in the Athabasca Basin. But the important thing is that all these properties are, majority of the properties are near major uranium deposits in the Athabasca Basin, such as the Arrow, the famous or infamous, I guess, Arrow deposit. So one of those plays where, they're near producers, and if they are near major deposits, it's more likely they have something in the ground. They do the drilling, make it all nice and shiny, and they'll sell it off to a prospective buyer. And their market cap is actually 43 million. I'm not sure if I gave the market cap for Skyharbour. I don't think I did, but their market cap is 84 million. So from highest market cap to lowest market cap, you have your Encore Energy in the United States, you have your Skyharbour Resources in the Athabasca Basin, and then finally Fission 3.0, also here in Canada in the Athabasca Basin.
By the way, just looking at the photograph from Fission 3.0, I mean, there's just a random four-wheeler, like a Bobcat, a little bulldozer. It could be like in the back of by somebody's garage in the woods. Like, I'm not sure. They weren't going exactly for the aesthetic. By the way, you talked earlier about that. This is a plug for our yours truly, not me, but us. It was December 8th when we did our last uranium mini sector, and everything we said came true. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, Chris Perry, you can, since you're the guru, you can ride right off that fact right there.
Sure thing, boss. Well, look, we've made no secret that we think uranium is a good investment right about now, and war breaking out in Ukraine certainly hasn't changed that fact. Chernobyl getting looted was an interesting wrinkle in that little episode. Look, there's plenty of reason to think that uranium is going to continue on its march upwards. In the 80s and 90s, everyone hated it because we didn't know what to do with the waste. That's not such a big deal anymore. And certainly since Fukushima, nuclear reactors have gotten many times more stable and safe than they were. And when it comes right down to it, we don't have a battery solution that makes solar and wind at large scale really feasible across the board, right? It's helpful, it's good, but a lot of what's made is not used and it can't really be easily stored. So what does that leave us? It leaves us with nukes. Nuclear reactors, you have them on battleships right now. So the idea that building one is going to mean that a large part of your country is going to be rendered unusable, we're already past that place, right? So if you can put mini reactors on battleships, you can sure as hell put them in Red Deer and not worry too much that little Timmy's going to grow up with an extra leg. Of the companies that we're talking about here, they're very different. Like, I see Encore as being a grown-up little play that is closer to the production side of things. Skyharbour is a smaller play, but one that has really earned its chops in terms of its multiples have come not just from a general rise in the sector, but from doing the work and creating partnerships. Fusion, me and Dev go a little bit back. We've tangled him many a time. He's a definite trumper. I think, quite frankly, in my opinion, the market cap on Fission, it pays a Dev tax. And I think if Dev maybe, found other things to do, the market cap might increase as a result. There are many Dev stories, and certainly the guy is full of hustle, but that's not necessarily a compliment all the time. I think that, frankly, if Fission had done less collecting properties and more moving their existing properties towards production over the last 5 years, we'd be talking right now about many hundreds of millions of dollars more in value on that company, because it would be closer to actually taking advantage of what we're seeing in the uranium market right now. One thing that I will throw in as an extra, an unannounced Easter egg, Vishal, if you could pull up URC, Uranium Royalty Corp. Now, usually I'm all for the little market cap investment because they have to do less heavy lifting to double their stock, triple their stock, than does something that's a $500 million company. But if I overlay the stock chart for URC, which is a $500 million royalty deal that genuinely does take advantage of the rise in uranium because it buys physical uranium and deals in royalties of people who are producing. You could overlay the Fission stock chart, and they're almost identical over the last year. And so, I think Fission has been benefiting from the rise in the cost of uranium, but I think URC is doing the exact same percentage increases, but with a much more advanced and production-heavy business model, which to me makes it, rather than investing in Fission and being always close to, dire times or great times, I think there's a much more stability here in Uranium Royalty Corp. Yeah. And in fact, I think it's probably more likely over the next year to see more gains. I'm not usually the guy that says $500 million company is the way I want to go. But, if the metal itself is increasing in price, the companies that are actually producing or getting a percentage from production or buying and selling, that's a much more compelling deal to me than a prospect generator. Now, I could throw Skyharbour in there. It's less of a prospect generator because they're actually moving their prospects. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's interesting because they're a chance of progressing this to a point where it could be in a year or two, maybe looking at production. So I think that's interesting. And Encore Energy, it's just much more of a sort of a big board sort of company, right? They're much more further along and, probably more likely to take advantage of getting close to production. They're generating lots of financing and moving things along. That's a big boy play. And it's, once you get to the big boy place, I'm generally out and I'm moving to places that are going to have much more volatility. So for mine, Skyharbour is interesting. URC is an interesting thing to watch. And Fission's the crazy play. Like, you could make a whole bunch of money there if one day Dev wakes up and says, babies, we're draining a lake. Let's go. We're into production. And that thing's going to fly. But I don't think that's the plan. I don't think it's ever been the plan. It's more of a collect and flip deal. And frankly, those are a dime a dozen. You and I could run one of those.
I believe Galen is anxious and champing at the bit. It's truly champing at the bit to join in the resource conversation.
Yeah, the biggest. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Mm. Right. Yeah. 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 Now, Galen brings up a good point. It's about, if is China and India, are they actually going to go through with building, all these multiple in China? Yeah. 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 I mean, I think Yeah, and I think China is like they want to build like 200 new reactors, right? India is like in three figures as well. So it's about, they're shifting away from coal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then in terms of supply and demand for uranium, that means like we will need more supply for that demand. But the issue is, will that supply be able to catch up or grow in the same way that the production of uranium is growing, right? So if there is that, yeah, exactly. No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing about, so you brought a good point with Kazakhstan. I think people should realize that Kazatomprom, that's like the state company in Kazakhstan. They're basically make up 40% of the world's uranium export. So just to put into perspective, in oil, the big company is Aramco in Saudi Arabia, which accounts for like 20% of the world's export in oil. So Kazatomprom, 40%. If uranium is the way we go towards, that's a big. They're going to be a big. Exactly. Yep. Yep. You're right. Yep. Yep. Nice. Canada's up there as well. Yep. That's why I think there's a. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's exactly. So 100%. And I think that's like the excitement over in the US and Canadian plays, because if there is going to be this geopolitical, I guess, wall or divide now between East and West, then we're going to have to spend money in the US and in Canada to get these resources back up again. And I think you can say that for like everything, right? Rare earth metals, lithium, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the excitement.
Check out the three charts. We've got the SYH, which we've talked about, Skyharbour Resources. These are all venture exchange in Canada. Skyharbour's SYH Fission 3.0 is FUU. That's right, FUU.
Yep. So as we mentioned earlier, FUU, yeah. So as we mentioned earlier, there is a bit of a pullback in uranium, right? So we did hit highs in 2022. It does look like the spot price is going to fall lower, and that means a lot of these uranium majors and miners are going to be seeing a bit of a pullback. And we're hoping, that this pullback will take us to nice price floor or support levels, which give you an opportunity, or give us all an opportunity to buy the dip. So starting off with EU Encore Energy, that support is coming up at $1.70. That's really the zone that we've been watching. You can see it was resistance back in early January of this year. We have recently then broken back above it on April 7th, almost hit highs of $2, and now we're pulling back to retest that $1.70 zone. And if we can build some momentum with higher uranium prices from this area, we will take out $2.10, and then we're looking at new record highs basically for Encore Energy in the long term if we're very bullish on uranium. Skyharbour, very interesting as well, because it is actually about to test its major support level or its pullback level here around 60 cents. And I highlight this in my article as well, but we've talked about this in a previous show and article. But this 60-cent zone is big for many reasons. More importantly, it's a huge resistance zone that that Skyharbour has on the weekly chart. So a very, very long-term chart, resistance zone going all the way back to 2014, which is now going to be tested once again. We did test it back in November of 2021, but it didn't hold. We're hoping the second time we will be able to hold. So I would be watching this 60-cent zone right here on Skyharbour. And if we can get above 80 cents down the road, that gets you ready for the next leg higher in Skyharbour. And then when we look at FUU or Fission 3.0, this company is pretty much at its support zone right now at the 16 or 15 cent zone. You can see here we had big buyers step in a month ago now, March 15th. Time goes by really fast, but March 15th, we had a lot of buyers stepping in at this 15-cent zone. And then in late March, early April, we saw the same thing with buyers defending this 15-cent zone. So we do know that there is a group of buyers here. Will they be able to hold up the stock for a third time? We're going to find out in the next few days. So this is a company that I'd be maybe keeping on my watch list if you're bullish on uranium and want to buy support dips. I would love to see maybe some sort of range develop, just indicating that, hey, the buyers are not letting the sellers, take control and bring the prices down. And then, you want to see a nice, strong green candle indicating that, hey, look, the buyers are putting up a fight and they're winning. And then, in the short term or medium term, you want to see a close above 18.5 cents for the next move higher. So a lot of these stocks are moving with uranium, which is pulling back. They're either close to their major support zone, or in the case of some companies, at that major support zone right now.
Which raises the ultimate questione on the round table. And we start with Chris Perry, the guru himself. What do you invest if you've got 7,500 bones?
Well, like I said, Encore Energy is a little bit big boy pants for me. As an investor, I like to get a little bit more sort of rickety-schnickety up and downy, a little bit more potential for big moves. And in order for me to double my money on a $500 million company, they got to become a $1 billion company. That's a lot of heavy lifting, as opposed to, let's say, something like Skyharbour, where you're going from 58, 59 million to 100. Couple of good news releases, you can see that happening relatively quickly. It's a lot less heavy lifting to do. What I think is interesting about all these deals is the volume. So clearly there's been an increase in trading volume on all of them over 2021, late 2021, 2022. The thing that's interesting to me is throughout 2022, all of them, the red candles are there as much as the green candles. There's been a lot of churn. So I think maybe you had a lot of guys who were in uranium in 2020, 2021, who in 2022 have seen a little bit of downward action for the first time in a while and said, I'm taking my profits, I'm out of here, and I'm going to reset.
Yep.
In that, a lot of new investors have come in who maybe haven't thought of uranium for a while, or who, like me, had, but got sick and tired of hearing it was the next big thing for 5 years. And finally are saying, I see the world around me in a different way now. I think that uranium has a future, and maybe, there's been some issues at the London Metals Exchange over the last few months that have changed maybe the way people who buy metals contracts are thinking about things going forward. I think maybe uranium is going to be seen more as a movable commodity going forward, and that's what's got more interest in it. It was kind of a locked box for a while, similar to lithium, and I think that's going to change. So it's long-term for me, it's going to be an interesting play. But the churn is really interesting right now. There's new people getting into this space, and there's old people who've taken their money and got out. When those older people, old in terms of been in for a while, when they're done, or when they start seeing a bit of upward movement again and think maybe it's time to reset my bet, I feel like uranium is going to go on another run. And so the URC deal that I called on, I would throw a couple of thousand at that and play that as just a metals play. Fission, I'm not really interested in because there's too much chaos there. Look, chaos has served Dev very well over the years. He certainly plays that brand well and doesn't shirk from it. But I don't think you need to be chaotic all the time. I think you need to have an overarching strategy. And I think let's just collect properties has been not the way to go and play uranium. I think Skyharbour has got it more on a leash. Mm-hmm. If I go back to 2020, when we were talking about Skyharbour a couple of years ago, this was a 15, 14, 13 cent stock. Yeah. And a lot of people were like, yeah, right, mate. The long range uranium explorer, okay, that's the way you're going to play your money. Well, if you listen to us, you might have got this thing out at 85 cents in the last 6 months. Right now, it's sitting at 64, and that's down over the last 6 weeks, but not horribly down. But as Vishal said, this is firming support right now. And if we're getting new investors into the game who have a few months to let the company show what it's doing, I could see this thing pushing beyond where it is right now towards 80, 90, even $1. If it gets through $1, this is an entirely different company, right? Yep. Playing up to $1, it's still a penny stock in a lot of people's eyes. Institutionally, even people that look at it and say you're doing all the things right, there's a lot of groups that aren't going to invest in anything under $1 a share. But if this pushes through $1, it goes to $1.50 real quick after that. So I think for mine, at a low over the last 6 weeks of 64, but having been in the upper 70s for most of that time, and believing that uranium has a bit of pop to go, I think I'd throw $5,000 down on Skyharbour, maybe a couple of grand at URC. Fission needs to tell me a better story, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, 5K for Skyharbour and 2K for the wild card entry, Galen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. Mhm. Yep. Yep. No, the royalty is the URC one that Chris was talking about.
Yeah, that's the one I just pulled out of my ass. I was just looking for a general uranium ETF, but a uranium royalty company is better to me than an ETF. I've said this a million times. ETFs are gift baskets, right? You get some good stuff, you get some shitty stuff, you get some stuff that's well past its best before date. I'd rather invest in things that I think are actually doing really strong. And URC looks like it's really got its game in play.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah.
Not bad. We're spending some money today, Michelle.
Yeah, Rob, I'm going to go all in, right, on uranium. I just think, it's how you spread the money around, though.
Shocking.
That makes it really tough. I do like Encore Energy as like a U.S. play, because if there is just a situation, in the United States, I do believe uranium is now a strategic reserve as well, or a strategic asset in the U.S., which could be a big thing, right? Because the United States does need to increase their production of uranium if things on the geopolitical side get a bit iffy. So I do find that play interesting, just focusing on uranium purely on a U.S. basis. So there is a chance that, yes, I know it is a $500 million company, but there is a chance that if they do the proper things and more money starts flowing in the U.S., just looking at uranium per se, then perhaps it could double, or it could be $1 billion company. But that is, a bit of speculation on my part. Chris, you brought up the uranium royalty company, and I don't know if you guys could just see, I've been smiling this whole time ever since you brought this up, because I think I'm going to do some buying on my own portfolio. But I love my royalty plays. You guys know
royalties are great. People sleeping on royalties, but if we go back to 2017, when this company was but a pup, and we were talking about Metalla royalty back in the day when it was like a 50-cent stock, that thing went up as high as $17. It settled in at $9, but 50 cents to $9 over 5 years, and almost a straight line up. Royalty deals are legit good deals. People, think that there's dividends and there's growth stocks, but basically being the financier of everybody's preference is why not take a piece of everyone's deal instead of having to buy the deal itself? Like royalties just make sense.
Yeah.
But when they're doing their due diligence and the possibility of investing 50 million into a mill or a production, they're getting a lot better access than you and me, right? Like we're looking at financials, we're looking at technical data, we're talking to people who are smarter than us. But guys that go in and finance those deals, they're sending people to the coalface, right? They're going in there and they're going through the lawyer paper boxes. They're getting access to the shit that we don't get access to, and they'd have to sign NDAs to look at. And that's the level of intricacy. The biggest resource companies in the world are royalty companies.
Exactly.
And, prospect generators are good, but prospect generators are minor league ball. And these guys, they become the Yankees.
It's literally the best business model maybe ever created.
How much of your all-in is going to that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a tough thing for me because I would put all in URC just because the whole royalty and streamers, and look at what streams they have, right? They're with the big producers such as Cameco and Energy Fuels, which is a big producer in the U.S. They're covering the Athabasca Basin and also parts of the United States, which Encore, has a portfolio. And so, hey, maybe these guys will pick up a royalty with Encore's Rosita mine in 2023, right? That's the potential here. I would, that's what I'm saying. It's so many ways to play this space. I love my royalty because it's, as Chris said, it's literally the best business right out there, right? It's very, it's mostly safe, as Galen mentioned. Management can mess things up if they make the wrong choices, but the benefit is that mining is very expensive. But a royalty company, they can finance these projects and they can have a team of 10 to 20 people, right? So the costs are very low. And if the management's really good, they can have catalysts regardless of the uranium prices going down and up. If it's going up, it's great. And their royalties are making money. If it's going down, their royalties are still making money. And the company can acquire, new royalty and streams at cheaper prices. So that's why I think the royalty and streamers are great. And, another way to play this is, as Galen said, buying physical uranium. You can do so on the Canadian markets by trading Sprott physical uranium, which is U.UN, which is basically just tracks the uranium project, or the uranium spot price. So just for splitting 7,500, let's say 3,000 in Sprott physical uranium, 3,000 in the wild card that Chris brought up, URC, but I would be inclined to put maybe my whole fund in uranium royalty, and then let's put the remainder 1,500 in good old Skyharbour.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also want to just point out, while we're talking about royalty companies, we had a client late last year, Globex.
Mm-hmm.
You all might remember, a royalty company that's been in the metal space for a bit. When we first started talking about Globex early 2021, it was around about 75 cents. It's up to $1.65 now. And the chart in 2022 has just been up. Look, these royalty deals, man, if they're well run, they are a license to print money.
Exactly.
When things go bad in the resource sector, everybody wants them. And so they get the best deals. Exactly. On anything they finance. When things are going great in the resource sector, everybody wants them because they want to fast track deals. So they're just in the best space. We have money, bring us all your deals, and let's see who's going to give us the biggest return. It's a gimme.
And then the dividends in the future is just another bonus, which makes it even better.
Yep.
So fat chunks of money going out to the uranium world out of the investor roundtable for Equity.Guru. I'm Rob. That is Galen over there making thorium scones. Chris upstairs, he spent $7K, did he? 65? $7K. Michelle, the whole
also,
wad.
I had an edible earlier, so that might explain it.
We cannot guarantee
it was something in my drawer.
Something in his drawer. Sure. Did he say something in his drawers?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was, to be honest. It was just kind of floating around.
Nothing we can guarantee here, peoples. So please do your own homework and research. It's been a lot of hefty information. We hope you appreciate it and utilize it, but please also go do your own due diligence because we can't guarantee a thing. And also past performance does not guarantee future results. That's it for now. There will be more resources coming at you in the next few days as we move forward.
Uranium too.
We'll keep it keeps the happy. And we'll see you on the next Equity Guru Investor Roundtable. Bing!